Howdy YouTube. We're back for part 2 of our virtual machine hosting series, where we've been tasked by a client to create a server that can host up to 10, 15, 20 client Windows 10 clients or Windows 7 clients, a mixture of both. And in our previous episode I showed you how we adapted some existing virtual machines that I have out there to use dynamic RAM. Now today's episode is going to be all about creating additional virtual machines so I can do some additional testing. Now what you don't know is in the background that I've created a Windows 7 Ultimate Gold image, Gold Master image with Office 2010 on it, and I've created some Windows 10 Pro Gold Master images with Office on them as well. I had no trouble at all creating the Windows 7 virtual machines and sysprepping them, but I did have trouble. For example, I tried to take one of my existing lab units, a Windows 10 Pro, that has had the Fall Creators Update put into it, and I could not get it to sysprep at all because of add-on software that Microsoft has put on there. So what I did is I went out and I downloaded a clean version of Windows 10 Pro 1709, and once I did the initial install and then did Office 2010, I was able to then sysprep that machine and create an export image so we could import it into our new virtual or Hyper-V server. So what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be going over that, how to import that virtual machine, how to name them. And the goal today is to get a total of 10 Windows 10 machines up and running and 5 Windows 7 virtual machines. Now on Windows 7, in order to use Hyper-V Dynamic RAM, it has to be Windows 7 Ultimate on there in order for that to work. It won't work with Windows 7 Pro. Windows 10 Pro will work with dynamic RAM, as will Enterprise, so we don't have a problem there. Well, enough of me talking. Let's get the video started. We're going to go over to MCS Lab right now. Here we are at MCS-Lab, our Hyper-V virtual machine, and you can see we've got both of our domain controllers, our primary and our backup, are up and running. And the backup domain controller is using quite a bit of RAM right now, and I would be willing to venture a guess that it's doing an update on that operating system. Now we have one Windows 10 Enterprise and 2 Windows 10 Pro lab units, and we have one Windows 7 64-bit Ultimate. What I want to do is get a total of 10 of these Windows 10 lab units in here, so I need to create 8 more of these. Now what I did, like I said, behind the scenes is create these VMs and export them after I sysprep them. So it should just be a matter of importing a virtual machine, renaming some files, letting it boot up, and then doing that 6 or 7 more times. So let's get that started. We'll work with our Windows 10 units first. So I'm going to go over here to import virtual machine. Now I'm not going to go into details about this other than to tell you whatever folder you use to import and export to and from, you have to make sure that the system has read-write access to that folder. Otherwise you're not going to be able to export. You would only be able to export and import from a local hard drive. So I'm doing this from my NAS where I've got all these machines exported to. So what I need to do is go to my NAS, and I put them all under Veeam backups, and then here's the Windows 10 Pro 1709 with with Office 2000 Gold. So I'm going to select that folder, and it'll take a second. And I'm going to do next, and then I'm going to import that virtual machine. That tells you when it was created, right here. Click on next, and I'm going to make sure I copy the virtual machine so it creates a new unique ID. I don't want 2 virtual machines to have the same ID. Click on next. I'm going to let it choose the destination. It's going to put in the VHD folder under D, or is that P? Is that P? Yeah, it's under P, virtual machines. Next, and then fingers crossed, this will start the import. Now what it's going to do is it's going to import it with that name of the Windows 10 Pro 1709 2K Gold. So once it imports that machine, we'll need to change the names so that we don't get confused. Now while this import is running, and it appears to be running, let's see if our task manager sees, yeah, we see some data coming from the network, so it is running. Meanwhile, let's talk about backups, because before I started all this, come here to the camera, before I started all this, I made sure I went out with Veeam and I did image backups of all my domain controllers, all my lab units, just in case I screw something up really bad. I can go back to my backups, so make sure you do that before you get started. Backups are very important. We're going to let this machine import, and then we'll come back once the import is complete. Alright, so we have success on that import, and you can see it's kept the name we named the virtual machine when we exported it. So first things first, we need to rename that machine. So what we're going to call this is do this again, W10P-64-Lab3. And I just want to kind of keep the naming convention the same. Now I'm going to try and do that here. No, can't. I was hoping maybe I could rename it here. Oh, I can here. So we can call this W10P. Get rid of the rest of this. -64-Lab3. Now it'll take a second and it's updated, so we'll open that. Okay, sorry. And apply. So if all went well, the names are the same. Let's go ahead and connect to this. And it should start up like it was a brand new machine. And take me through all the setup prompts like Windows 10 normally does. Hope you enjoyed the other video. The goal was to keep that video at 30 minutes, but it ran over. I think it ended up being 41 minutes long. So sometimes, I just have so much information I need to cram into these videos, and I know you like my banter, but frankly, I don't know why I'm obsessed with keeping videos under 1 hour, or keeping them to half an hour. I don't know. Just don't want them to get too long-winded, as they say. Alright, I cut away on the video there because it was taking an inordinately long amount of time, it seemed to me, for that machine to come up. But we're now back to our region setup, so we're going to go ahead and walk through the setup steps to get this version of Windows 10 up and running. And you can tell this is the Fall Creators update, because this is one of the signature aspects of it. Is that it comes up and asks your region settings, and they've put a new little what do they call it, the Metro style interface on there. I'm going to go ahead and accept the license agreement. And this is the out-of-box experience, they call that. So we're going to set it up for an organization. And really, you just have to breeze through these settings. None of these settings, unless you were using one of your Microsoft accounts, would matter. I always just choose domain. Now I need to enter a username and not use Adama, because that's how I set these up before I sysprep them. So I need to call this Adama1 and go ahead and enter a password for it. It really doesn't matter. You can clear all this stuff up later once you get your virtual machine set up. And you're probably wondering what YKI is for a password hint. The password hint is "you know it." Yeah, see, it's not going to let me do it. I'm going to have to do Adama 2. Because there's already an Adama 1 account in there as well. Because when I, never mind. When I sysprepped it, I've sysprepped this unit twice, so just to do a little testing on it. Now, hopefully that will work. Yeah, and no, I'm not going to use Cortana. And then for all these settings, I turn them off. In a corporate environment, I don't need any of them. Now, the other thing I typically turn off is OneDrive, because it comes up automatically on startup. And they have an easy way to disable that now under Windows Task Manager. So we'll let this initial setup finish, and then we'll come back. The other way to tell that this is the Fall Creators Update is it's the best Windows ever. If you see that and it brings up an Edge browser, you know you've got the Fall Creators Update. I'm just going to close that. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to bring up Task Manager, if it'll let me here. Let's see here. Where is Task Manager? One thing I didn't do is put Classic Desktop in there. That's okay, we'll fix that. And you can see the first thing you see coming up here is Microsoft OneDrive setup. So what I like to do is come over here to Startup, and I like to right click on that and disable OneDrive. Now it's still going to run through. Well, actually it looks like it terminated the startup process, so good, that won't run. Now I'm going to give this a minute or two to stabilize. There's the OneDrive setup going again. So we'll give this machine a couple of minutes to stabilize now that we've imported it into our system, and we'll see about how long it takes. It's 1:26 now. We'll come back in about 5 minutes. We'll come back at 1:30 and see if it's stabilized a bit. Alright, so we gave the VM about 5 minutes, 4 minutes to stabilize, and it seems to have stabilized quite a bit. And you can see processor usage is down to nothing. Memories, I've only got 2 gig of memory on this unit. We need to go out and do the virtual machine Hyper-V dynamic RAM management on it. So now that I've got the machine up and running, I'm going to go ahead and shut it down. And then we're going to make changes to our virtual RAM, and then we'll join this thing to the mcslab.local domain. So we'll right click on it, go into settings, and we're going to go to memory, and we're going to enable dynamic. We're going to keep the startup RAM at 2 gig, and we'll set the maximum at 4 gig. And that's the only setting I'm going to change. Now I'm going to go ahead and connect. I'm going to go ahead and start up this machine, and then we'll join it to the domain. So let's see how fast it starts. And you'll see all those other Adama accounts when I go to log on to this machine. You see Adama 1, Adama 2, and Adama 3. So we'll just use the first one. It doesn't matter. They all three have the same password. In between doing these things, I've been watching a guy I know that on YouTube blow some shit up in Fallout, or blow, oh I'm sorry, I said the S word, blow some stuff up in Fallout 4. Okay, so the machine is up and running now. Let's see, let's go look at the dynamic RAM and see if it's working. Yes, it is. So let's see if oh look, it hasn't even updated the icons yet. God, I hate this Windows 10 start menu. Just hate it. Let's see what's using all our CPU. Now it's Cortana. Okay, but it looks like we've disabled OneDrive. Good. Nope, it's enabled it again. Let's try one more time to disable it. And see if it holds it. It may or may not. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into File Explorer, because that's the easiest way to get into where I need to be. So then I right click on my computer, go to Change Settings, First thing I need to do is give this the name of W64P, or I'm sorry, Windows 10P-64-Lab3, right? Yeah, if we look up here, W10P-64-Lab3. So the first thing we need to do is rename the machine. And then it'll have us restart. Other people are logged onto this computer? No, they're not. That was odd. We'll go ahead and restart. I can tell you just from, rebooting these virtual machines that it's quite a lot faster now that we've got the SSD drive in that server. Try to log in, and now this time we're going to try and join the domain. Now normally I tell people wait till all the processes start up, but I don't want to keep y'all waiting. So again, I'm going to go to File Explorer, right click on this PC, go to Properties, come over here to Change Settings, and then we're going to join the change and join the MCS lab.local. I hope this works. I haven't even verified what IP address this is getting. Let's go down here and look under networking. Okay, so it is. That's good. I was concerned that I had not. Good. It's got VLAN 20 in there already, so that's a good thing. I have to join VLAN 20 because that's where mcslab.local is located. So we'll go ahead and click on OK, and then it should prompt me for my domain administrator's username and password. We enter that. It should successfully join the domain, and then of course it'll want to restart again. And let's see how fast this restart is now that it's joining a domain, because usually it takes a couple of more minutes to boot up. No, not too bad. And I'm going to choose other user, and you see it's going to sign into the MCS lab, but just in case, I'm going to go ahead and enter the full domain just to make sure. Now, none of these machines are going to be activated at first. I'm just going to run them in the the trial mode, and then I'll go out and activate each one of those. And as you can see, it's going to take several minutes to set up the desktop. And that was fairly quick. So, if I was using spinning hard drives in this Hyper-V machine, it would have taken a heck of a lot longer. But now we should see that it's joined to the domain. If we right click on this PC, come to Properties, we should see now that it's joined to mcslab.local. So I'm going to go ahead and log off. And then we'll close that and let it continue to run in the background. That way, if it's got any secondary setup stuff it needs to do, it'll be good to go. Alright, now let's do the same thing with our Windows 7 virtual machine. We'll get another one set up. So we'll come up here to Import Virtual Machine. Next, we have to browse to that share on our NAS. And we see Win764 Ultimate Gold. Not the Pro, but we want the Ultimate. So select that folder. Next, you can see the image was created on the 15th. Boy, I sure do hope. 15th, huh? And today's the 22nd? Boy, I hope I got the right machine. Yeah. It says 2/21. Interesting. I find that date a little disconcerting, because that should say yesterday's date on it. Let me see. Yesterday was what, the 21st? Yeah. Alright, well, we'll see what happens. And I'm going to do, of course, I'm going to copy the virtual machine, create a new unique ID. And we'll go ahead and let that import. And we'll come back when that's done. Alright, so that import was successful, as you can see here. So we need to go out and change some settings. First thing we're going to do is we're going to call this, rename it to Lab 2. So it'll be Win764-Ultimate-Lab 2. And then we need to, where is it, inspect? No, we need to browse, and then we can rename this. Then we can select it, apply. Just check our settings real quick. Good, it doesn't have a dynamic memory on. Alright, so we'll go ahead and connect to it and we will fire it up. And hopefully it will go through its new setup. I just wanted to see what kind of impact it had on CPU when starting Windows for the first time. Now, back to sysprepping Windows 10. Yeah, don't try to sysprep a Windows 10 unit that has had updates. In other words, if you start out with 15.11 on Windows 10 and went to 16.07 on Windows 10 and you have some software installed, you try to go out to sysprep it, it's more than likely going to fail. So the recommendation I got off the net was to download that version 1709 fresh as an ISO file, and then sysprep off of that. The other way to do it is to use the Microsoft install kit. I forget the name that Microsoft calls it, but it allows you to go out and edit a system image, and it's like creating an answer file for the old Windows 7. It's AIK, I believe, is the name of the kit that you need to, and then you can prepare Windows 10 images and any, drop features out of them, whatever you want to do. But I have never used their install kits. I just find them to be a little more complex than what I need to do. All right, so let's go through our setup here. Now I'm going to need to enter Adama 1. And then we'll do this Win764-ULT-Lab 2. And we'll go ahead and enter our super secret password. And we're not going to worry about the license code right now. It'll run without it. Time zone is set correctly. Connect it to our work network. Now, a lot of people talk about the speed of Windows 7 versus the speed of Windows 10. I find them pretty similar. Although, as Windows 10 has progressed these last few years that we've had it, it has gotten slower and slower on boot up, just like Windows 7 did over a course of time. Alright, so let's go out and look at, actually we can just do it by going here. Let's see what's taking up all of our CPU time. Nothing much. Performance is good. Alright, so I'm going to shut this down now, because I want to make the changes to the memory. I want to enable dynamic memory. So we'll turn that on and apply it, and then we'll boot the machine back up. And then the next thing we're going to do is join it to the domain, to the mcslab.local domain. You can see these machines are fairly speedy for being virtual. I do like a speedy machine. So we'll come up here to computer, right click on it, go to properties, and we'll come up here to our change settings. Oh, let's check one more thing. We want to make sure that the network card is set up for VLAN 20, and it is. Okay, so we'll go ahead and go to change. Okay, so it's welcoming us to the domain, and then it should tell us we need to restart. So we'll go ahead and do that now. And it looks like that's the right image, but we'll know when we log in. We'll go out and make sure that we still have Office out there. I hope I didn't boo-boo and export that image before I put Windows on it, but I could have sworn I had Windows on it. And I'm going to log in the same way here, Adama at mcslab.local. All in all, I'm very happy with that decision to put those SSDs into that server. They have kind of shown me that Windows Hyper-V has a bright future with the virtualization with those SSDs in it. Alright, so let's just verify we're joined to the domain now, and we are mcslab.local. Now let's go out and see if we have Office. Yeah, we do. Okay, so we have Word, Excel, etc. So there you go. I've imported a Windows 10 Pro machine that was previously sys-prepped. I have now imported a Windows 7 Ultimate machine and set that up. So now all I have to do is go out here and create 7 more of the Windows 10 and 3 more of the Windows 7 to give me a testing environment that will really put this server through its paces. I'm going to do that off screen, and then we'll come back to the video once I get all those virtual machines set up. And we're back, and it's a day later. And as you can see, I now have 10 Windows 10 Pro lab machines up and running. I have 5 Windows 7 Ultimate machines up and running. They're all using dynamic memory. As you can see, some of these have been up 3 hours, some of them 16 hours, 15 hours. I have gone out and done all the updates on these. These are all running Windows 2010. I'm sorry, Windows 10 and Office 2010. And as you can see, with using dynamic RAM, it is even with only 24 gig of RAM on here, I'm still got about 8 gig available. And my CPU usage is negligible. So what I did was I just went out onto all those sys-prepped machines and just kept importing them one right after the other. Did the import, renamed them like I showed you in the previous video, and now I've got them all up and running. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to let them run for a few days, or for a day or two, or probably over the weekend, just to make sure they're stable, to make sure the server's stable. Let's go out and look at, I'm going to bring this up while I'm talking to you, and that is Hard Disk Sentinel, because I just want you to see how the stats on the drive, if they've changed, if it's still saying we have the same amount of life left on this SSD drive, because I imagine it's taken a real beating from all these machines being up and running and going out and getting updates and everything else. And as you can see, I've got the Task Manager up and I've got Resource Monitor up and running. But I just want to go out for my own sake and take a look at that SanDisk drive. So it's been on 136 days and 1 hour. It's still got more than 1,000 days, and the lifetime writes are 3.53 terabytes. So it's getting up there. Supposedly this drive, these drives are good to 100 terabytes. That's what they say. That's what I looked up on them. They have gotten them to run as far as 200 terabytes of lifetime writes, but they don't recommend it. They recommend 100. Go out to Smart. I have no failures. Let's see. Reserve space is already set on there. Total gig written. Okay, so everything looks okay so far, but I like to worry about things. That's why I brought this back up. Everybody's put the fear of God in me that this SSD is going to bomb on me any second, but I know it's not. I know it's just an irrational fear. But I just wanted you to see that for yourself, that I have gotten all the virtual machines done. They are all up and running. Alright, so that's going to end it for part 2 of this video. Now part 3, I'm going to be using some stuff I got in the mail today. And one of those is an HP thin client. It's behind me. And then I'm going to take a older laptop and I'm going to put some thin client software on there. It can run Windows. Your thin client could be running Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, hell, even Windows XP. And you could use it to connect to any of these virtual machines. But we're going to use one of these HP thin clients that I managed to pick up, and then we're going to take one of the laptops and turn it into a thin client. So make sure you tune in for the next episode of that. That'll be in part 3 of this video. Well, there you go. That'll do it for part 2. So we hope you found the video entertaining and informative. As always, give us a thumbs up down below. We take PayPal. We take Patreon if you're so inclined to donate. Go out there and shoot us some funds. It would be greatly appreciated. And look for part 3 coming up very soon of this virtual lab series, so you can see how we're doing. And I am slated to install those cameras tomorrow, so we'll have some video footage of that come next week. We'll have that camera install video coming up and show you how I dealt with that. So thanks again for watching, and don't forget, we'll see you on the other side.